Liverpool will be saying goodbye to an absolute icon at the end of the season. Mohamed Salah's announcement earlier this week shook the world and has left a lot of Liverpool fans worried about the future without our Egyptian king. An in-depth discussion is very much needed, and I know just the guy to call up. A fellow Liverpool content creator, good friend of mine as well. Ben, how are we doing?
Max here. Yes, all good. Thanks, pal. You good?
I'm good, mate. I'm really, really excited to get chatting about obviously the Salah news. Sense of disappointment, sadness, of course. But let me take you back to Tuesday night, mate. You've just seen the news break, the announcement video, etc. What was your initial thoughts, feelings on it? Talk to me.
Surprised, of course, but then logically, I probably shouldn't have been surprised given what's happened this season. You start thinking about is there deeper meanings to this? What does it mean for the future? But I think the predominant thought for me was nostalgia, and it's not even
Mm,
over yet. Just looking back at the last 8, 9 years and just thinking, you had no idea. In 2017, 18 or whatever, I had no idea it was gonna pan out to be like this. When he first signed from Roma, I remember in pre-season, he just got on a bit of a goal scoring spree, you'll remember it well, and I
mm,
thought, "I wonder how long he can keep this up." And to be fair, he's kept it up for about 9 years, so, one of the best players I've seen play for Liverpool and just immensely proud of him. He's done not in a patronising way, but I thought he was absolutely fantastic. One of the best players I've seen for Liverpool.
100%. I mean, yeah, take me back to that pre-season because I remember when we signed him, I wasn't blown away with the signing, and he'd kind of gone to Chelsea and didn't do much there. Went to Syria, where he improved a lot, but straight away, it was literally like the first game of the season. You're just like, yeah, this guy is like, he's world class. Like we signed a world class player for 35 million, and like you say, he hasn't dropped those consistency levels for 9 years. It's actually crazy what he's done in a Liverpool shirt, isn't it?
Unbelievable, mate, and, in terms of value for money in this day and age as well, and I just think the output levels, it's gonna be so difficult for Liverpool to actually replace that. Football's not all about output, it has got to a point now where it's so stats based and so stats driven, but when you're looking at if I'm designing a side to win the league, if you will, you probably want 60 goals in the front line, I would say, 60 goals, something like that. You knew you were getting 25 out of your right winger.
Mm,
And I don't think there's anyone in world football the last certainly 5 years, potentially 10, that plays that same position that you can hang your hat on to put up those numbers. So in order for you've got to make it up somewhere else. And obviously Liverpool have done that. They preempted it with the Isak and Ekitike signing. That's probably where the predominant source of goals is going to come from going forwards. But I'm
mm.
just fascinated to see how the dynamics going to evolve over time because Salah's just been, ah, mate, he's been incredible, hasn't he?
Unbelievable. And I think we'll get into that a little bit more tactically, how we're going to evolve without him in this team, because everything's been, basically revolved around him for so many years now. But do you think this indicates anything for Slot's future? I've seen a lot of people kind of hint at that. Maybe he wouldn't have left if Slot wasn't manager, or if he had obviously been sacked before this point. What do you think?
Possibly. There's no way for anyone to know that. But
Mm,
I would say that it does, if there are people speculating online that it showcases that they know Slot's going to leave in the summer, that
mm.
can't be true. Because if Slot was Salah's problem and he knew he was going in the summer, then he wouldn't be doing it, I would
Most
suggest.
probably stay, yeah.
So I think, honestly, Max, I don't think anyone can really tell unless you're behind the scenes. I think obviously his drop off this season, they'd say it makes sense at the right time. I think there's context around that. I think he's been playing a slightly different position. If it was like for like with last year, I'd be interested if he could still put up the same numbers. But we'll never find out now. What I do know is I just celebrate the success he's been over the last 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, definitely. I think the timing has been quite good as well to make sure that this is like his farewell now. Like, some people think maybe why can he have just announced it at the end of the season? But a legend like that, you got to think he would want his farewell, his send off. His day at Anfield where he has a mosaic or something like that. He fully deserves that. And who knows what's going to happen with Slot? Maybe. Well, I still think it kind of revolves around if he's going to make Champions League football or not, whether he's going to keep his job for next season. But talking about Slot and Salah, obviously, so much has happened between the pair this season, falling out back in November, December. Do you think Slot has misused him tactically then this season?
Yeah, To be
Mm,
honest, yeah, I think so. Last season, I thought what he did. I do have to give Arne Slot, based on last season, credit because he did maximise the best out of Salah. I thought the tweak he did with Gravenberch as well. It wasn't the people say he just took on Klopp's side. I get that. There's probably a lot of truth to that. Maybe that's 70 or 80% of the puzzle. But I think the other 20 or 30%, the little tweaks here and there, I have to give him credit. So I'll start by
mm,
saying that. But this season, I think having a central striker, a more focus point than in the past, you had Diaz playing there or Jota. Obviously, Nunez didn't always start. I think the focal point was Salah. Whereas this season, moving to a central striker, he's not found that balance between the focal point being Ekitike and obviously Isak when he's played and utilising a winger. He's almost like Salah's had to sacrifice himself. He's playing a lot wider. He's playing not as close to goal as he was before. And I think the key point I would say is he's not getting as many chances. So
mm.
obviously, yeah, he's not scored as many goals, but he's not. Salah was never the most clinical player in the world, in my opinion. Anyway, I've
No,
always
it's,
thought he was someone that did miss, but he got a lot of chances. So that's why he
mm.
scored a lot of goals. This season, he's not. So that's one of two things. Either it is just his legs have gone. I would argue I actually thought he was slower last season and he had his best ever season, in my opinion.
Mm.
But or it's that he's being used differently. And I think it's more that. There is the relationship with Alexander Arnold as well. That would, of course, have implications, but I think it's largely down to how he's being used, yeah.
And the Szoboszlai thing as well, because obviously Szoboszlai was more of a 10 last season and used a lot of second man or third man runs to create space for Salah. We've seen our midfield dynamic change completely, and also our front three. New players coming in, Ekitike, Isak. Never thought Gakpo was a good presser either. So I think Salah's basically he's been given the same role as last season, in my opinion, but he's been forced to track back more, do stuff off the ball more, which he's just not going to do at his age, is he? So, yeah, there's been a lot of issues with Liverpool this season. We know that, but in particular for Salah, no one's really surprised at the drop off. I just thought it would probably come next season. It's just been fast tracked a little bit for me. But moving into obviously the evolution of Liverpool without Mo Salah next season. It's going to be interesting. A lot of links to wingers this summer. Do you think we need to sign a wingers, or do you think we go for a more central system with the two new strikers, Isak and Ekitike?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? So you've got to have conviction on this one. You've got to decide whether you're going to play with a front two
Mm,
and go with a 4-4-2 diamond or even like a 3-4-1-2, whichever way you wanted to do it. A very narrow formation. I think tactically it lacks width. I
mm,
think there are flaws to it, but in terms of getting your best players in your team, if you're saying that the sort of 5 or 6 standout players, if you're saying to me, Ben, you've got to get these players in the team next season, Isak, Ekitike, straight away that's a front two. Verts in the number 10, that can work in one of those two formations. Soberslai's got to be in the team. Van Dijk's got to be in the team. Alisson's got to be in the team. I think around that, everything else fits around.
mm,
I feel like with a front three, straight away you've got to leave one of the strikers out, which is not
yeah.
ideal. But profile wise, I probably prefer having a front three. So if it was up to me, yes, I probably would just make the call and leave out a striker. I probably wouldn't have signed both, to be honest, Max.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd go out and sign wingers and pace on either side. But I'm not against the idea. You've just got to have conviction. If you're going to have conviction and go with a front two, you've got to sign players to back up that system. So
Mm.
obviously they've got the front two, but you've got to be bringing in depth that can there go forwards and play in that system as well. I think someone like Rio Engamoa is probably going to struggle a little bit more if you do that. But yeah, that's how I see it, mate. And it does depend, of course, on what the new manager is going to do. If there is a new manager, sorry.
Yeah, so many question marks because obviously we don't know if a new manager will come in and play a new system, what his style of play will be. But I think if we do decide to go down that, two up top system, which you don't see much these days, to be fair, then I still think signing a winger or a couple wingers this summer is needed because you're not going to be able to play that system every game. So you will need to change it up and play maybe, a 4-3-3 one game. Maybe the fullbacks, you maybe Frimpong and Kirkes aren't, fit and available. So then you've got a different profile, like a Joe Gomez, for example, at right back. You're not going to rely on him to get forward and provide attacking output. So I don't know. It's very interesting to know what we're going to do. I think winger wise, is there anyone who stands out for you who you think could even come close to replacing Salah?
Not numbers wise. I like
No.
obviously this is silly what I'm going to say now, but he is being linked with Liverpool, so you never know. I know talks about his agents watching. Elise, I think, is probably as good as you're going to get. That's not Salah. I know he's put up numbers for Bayern Munich, but it's in Germany. I don't mean to be
Mm,
disrespectful. I don't think he'll put up the output that Salah did, but I think he's an incredible player. I think what you have to go careful of there is from what I've seen, he's not as intense out of
yeah.
possession, and that's something that we have struggled with this season. In terms of opportunistic ones, I think someone like Kudus at Spurs,
Mm,
purely because if Spurs are to go down, I think you'd get him on a good fee. If that happens, of course. Barcola's a name that's coming around a lot, but I
yeah.
think he costs a lot of money. Again, we're probably being silly. Diamande, I've not seen as much of, but I'm told
Same.
is very much going to be very good. So again, for me, Max, to really pin down on that question, I personally would go with a front three. I would sign wingers, but having the front two, having it as an option with the two players of the club, of course, makes sense. And you don't have to stick to one thing for the whole season, but I would like to see a clear idea, a clear identity as the season
Yeah,
goes
I
on, because I
agree.
think it's been lacking this season.
It's been wishy-washy, hasn't it? We've floated in between so many different systems. I think Ekatike could perform that left wing role, but in the modern day in the Premier League, I just think he has to get through so much work tracking back. You've seen you can probably only carry one man like last season we had with Salah. So if we sign an Elise, then a front three of Elise, Isak, and Ekatike, they're not going to do much work off the ball. And I don't think we're in an era of football where that is basically, allowed, or you're going to win the best trophies with that. You're not going to make up Salah's goals and assists for a direct replacement. So I think you're going to have to try and get that through Ekatike and Isak and Verts, of course. Maybe we can get the best out of Verts without Salah. I know that might sound harsh, but I feel like they haven't clicked throughout the season. And it's a shame because they're both top players.
No, agreed. I don't think they have. And what you just said there, spot on. I think they've got to, if you look at it mathematically, approach it like that and say Salah scores X and we need to score this many across the front line. We're losing 25 goals. We need to replace it. We might get 15 with someone else,
Mm,
10, 15, but then the goals need to come from the middle. I think you'll get a few more from Verts,
yeah.
potentially play in midfield. But again, it comes down to systems. Verts in sort of a 3-4-2-1 it might work a little bit better for him. I think someone like Elise would probably suit that formation as well. But so many unknowns, Max, because obviously under Klopp, Liverpool had a clear structure, a clear idea, and you signed players within the structure. This year, it hasn't worked at all. So it's still up in the air as to what 4 or 5 ideas you could go with. And then once you've got the idea and the structure, that's when you then sign in the players to go into it, in my opinion.
I think that's spot on because I remember Klopp in his first season when he came in, I think he used 4-2-3-1 a lot. And then in his first full season, 16-17, he went to that 4-3-3. And you were seeing it was all about the system, wasn't it? He kind of reprogrammed certain players like a Henderson, he dropped to a number 6. You had Lallana and Wijnaldum dropped to 8s. Mane obviously came in. Yeah, there was a clear identity. But even if we did go for a winger like Elise, incredible player, and he would probably be my number one pick. I do think we just need pace this summer, like blistering pace, and I don't think he has that necessarily. He's been crying out that Gakpo hasn't got it. Salah's obviously lost those couple of yards, so I think pace is a real area where Liverpool need to focus on this summer for me. You're going to get that in the wide areas and be a threat. You look at Minter the other week who ripped us to shreds either on the left or the right. I saw that and I just thought, oh, I miss having a player like that, like a young Sadio Mane.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I look at it as well. It's evident to me Liverpool lack pace. I'd like pace on both wings. That's just idealistically,
Mm,
but you could probably get away with one if you had someone like Wirtz on the other side. I wouldn't play Wirtz on the wing. I'd like to see him as
right.
number 10. But if you were playing with like the 3-4-3 that Leverkusen did, for instance, and he played off the left, I think in that system you'd get away with it. You'd probably get the best out of him. But I'd want pace on the other side. But obviously, systems, stars make fights at the end of the day. And if you were doing
Yeah.
something like Alonso's idea, you'd probably get away with the pace on the wing backs and more inside forwards. It just depends. I just really want to see a clear identity and idea, and I've not seen it all season. I don't see the patterns of play. I don't know how Liverpool are going to score their next goal. I don't know how Liverpool press. They seem very
Mm,
hesitant in the press, and that's my only thing with Elise you mentioned there. I think You said 2, 3 minutes ago, Ekatike, Isak, Elise. It sounds delicious out loud,
Mm.
but I don't think it works. I
No.
don't think there's the running power and the intensity off the ball within those three.
Not in the Premier League at the moment, how it is as well. You mentioned the fullbacks there, or the wing backs. How do you see them? Because obviously it's been Frimpong and Kirk as the new guys
Yeah.
coming in. How do you see their sort of role changing without Salah? If we do go down that central formation, obviously they'll be providing the attacking output, won't they?
Yeah,
Or the
I
width.
think one of the biggest problems this season for me has been striking the balance between attack and defence, and obviously 10 outfield players. But whatever you do, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, it always becomes a 5-and-5. So you look at like Man City, for instance, when they've got control possession of the ball, you've got a back three with two in front, or a back two with three in front, and then you've got five attacking players. That's
Mm,
how it always tends to be. Liverpool this season, I think, has been 4-2-3-1. You end up with a front three, you end up with Vert somewhere in it as well, so a fourth player, and both fullbacks that want to get forward. They tried with Kirkez in build-up play. He is not natural to it. You've got to let him go. You've got to let Frimpong go. I think with the narrow formations, so 4-4-2, 4-2-2-2, something along those lines, or if you went with a 3-4-3, for instance, I think the wing backs would really thrive being the
mm,
attacking outlets in those formations, but not have to worry so much about what's behind them
yeah.
because like, the rest defence is set there. If you
Mm,
think about that 4-4-2 diamond, the wing backs can get on, join the attacking players. Verts is in amongst it as well. You've got a five, which I'm talking about. You've got the three behind the number 10 in midfield that can kind of be that rest defence, and then a back two. I
yeah.
think it would work really well. It's just the case, does it lack width? Does it require specialists at fullback? I think it does. I think if Frimpong gets an injury, I think if Kirkes gets an injury, it's very difficult to replace these lads if they
Yeah.
do get injured because it's such a specialist position. But I think it would suit them really well being that wide outlet and being able to get forwards.
Yeah, there's part of me which thinks that that's why that system wouldn't be a long-term kind of thing. And you saying there about the 5-and-5 thing takes me back to the Jurgen Klopp obviously era where we
Yeah,
had Trent and Robertson just flying on. But the thing about that
midfield.
was we had the structure behind them to know that we could sustain attack. So Van Dijk and let's say Matip were there. Fabinho was covering every blade of grass, and then you had Henderson and even Wijnaldum kind of screening and filling in for the fullbacks. I just wish, like you say, we had that balance this season better, but it doesn't seem like it. I think the wing backs have had an up and down season. Kirk has started pretty poorly. Frimpong's been injured here and there, but has done okay in patches. But Kirkez, I'm seeing a lot of improvements recently. And to be honest, I do think, with Robertson leaving, he's going to take that left back spot. But like you say, it's not just those two players because we'd need backups and replacements if you're going to go down that. And they're quite unique profiles to replace, aren't they?
They are. And obviously, in terms of depth, you're signing someone that's probably only going to play 15 games over a 60-game
Mm.
season without injuries. Who's going to be good enough to come in and do it effectively, but be happy to sit there for that amount of time? It's a very tricky one to get right. That's why I think when you go with more, how would I say, if you go with 4-3-3, just a more common formation, it's more commonplace that you can replace these players. There's
Yeah,
less specialism about it. Whereas I think at the moment in this day and age, playing with a front two, that's another thing. If you're playing with a front two, it's very difficult if you lose one of those strikers to sign someone good enough to come in.
for
But
sure.
also, yeah, that's why again it's probably easier and safer just to play with a front three, make a brave call and leave one of them out. That's probably what I would do if I was managing the side.
Interesting stuff. And I guess we'll just move on to the sort of conclusions around Salah this season. Do you think he has one big moment left in a Liverpool shirt? Is there one, one last dance in front of the Kop or on a Champions League night? Maybe he knocks PSG out, has a special moment. What do you think? I think he has something left in the tuck.
Definitely. I think he's probably got a couple of moments left in his locker. It's just in terms of you saying one big moment, if it's going to be big defining the season, I'm not sure
Mm,
because I don't think Liverpool will win the Champions League.
no,
So I don't think he's going to score a goal to knock PSG out. 'Cause I think PSG will get past Liverpool. If I'm being honest, I don't mean to be pessimistic. That's just
I
being
agree.
honest. Champions League qualification in the league, I think will happen. I think Liverpool will finish fifth, which is,
Yeah,
by the way, poor, really poor. They've only got there on the fact there's a fifth Champions League place in England. I think he will have moments. So I think he'll have one or two more big moments. Just a moment in a big game against, like Man United or something like that.
Mm,
Liverpool still got to play Man United away. Perhaps he goes to Old Trafford and scores again. He always likes to
he
do
loves
that,
that.
and something along those lines. But I don't think something that results in a trophy necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, every time he scored this season, there is nostalgia and there's emotion when he celebrates, especially in front of the Kop. So I'd love to see that happen on a few more occasions. You mentioned there that, you don't think we're gonna win a trophy. Do you think it is as simple as Man City will knock us out and so will PSG in the cups?
No, I think FA Cup bit more chance. To be honest, I think we could
Mm,
get past Man City. And still got a decent chance in that Champions League. Of course, Liverpool have a chance. I think there's worse teams have won it. Look, Liverpool 2005 were worse than now.
yeah.
Chelsea 2012, Porto 2004. It's happened many times. It can happen again. Of course, it can. Um, but if you're asking me to be a betting man, I think PSG go through. In all seriousness,
Yeah, I think the Anfield second leg is a big one though. I was discussing this earlier with someone. Um, Even if we lose 2-0 away, do you- like PSG would be frightened to come to Anfield, and obviously
well,
they did that last season. I know they were behind in that one, and they
I,
pull off some performance.
I had the displeasure of being at that game. Liverpool were
Mm,
fantastic on the night, by the way. I was at the Liverpool PSG second leg, and I could not believe my eyes that they came to Anfield, and they're a really good side. They're really good. I couldn't
yeah,
believe, especially in that first leg, how good they actually are. And yeah, I'll be honest. Last season, PSG for that second half of the season were as good. There's probably not too many sides in the last 15 years I've seen that have been that good in the peak for those 6 months. I think for the Barcelona side of sort of
mm,
2009 to 11,
11.
of course, but outside of that, maybe Bayern Munich 2013, Man City treble, they're probably third or fourth PSG. I thought they were really, really good.
They were so good. They're so convincing. And this season, I'm not going to pretend to watch the French league, but
No.
they do look defensively maybe more vulnerable, but that attack can just win a game at any moment. And they have a lot of things that I wish Liverpool's attack had, just like off the cuff individual brilliance, stuff we haven't seen all season long. And they've got backups as well. Like you mentioned, Barkley. I know he got injured against Chelsea, but him, Doué,
Yeah.
Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, at
On that
any moment.
On Kvaratskhelia, sorry, I can't say his name, but
Mm,
he could do a similar Wirtz could do a very similar thing on that left-hand side. I personally wouldn't play Wirtz on the left, but you look at him, he's not the quickest. He's a very
mm,
technical, good in tight spaces player, can take players on. I think stylistically, if you have the pace on the other side, you probably can get away with on one side having a more techie player like that. I think stylistically he's quite similar to he's better than him, who I'm gonna say by the way, but stylistically, he's quite similar to what Grealish was a few years ago, I think.
mm,
I think he's got a little bit more to his game, if I'm honest. But I think you could look at Wirtz as well and think he could do that in the right system.
yeah,
Personally, I would look to play him as a number 10, but with PSG, you mentioned the depth they've got, the pace they've got. It just, mate, it's so difficult to stop. But also, with their system, they've got that three-man midfield. You talked about Klopp's. That three-man midfield doesn't vacate the middle. So they're never
no.
exposed too much to the counter-attack I found last season in the Champions League.
Yeah, their rotations in midfield as well are really good. Like you can never really work out who's the deepest one because they rotate so much. And I don't know, you'll see Vitinha pop up with wonder goals or João Neves as well. Really, really good team. But there was one question that popped into my head actually after the Salah announcement that I wanted to get your opinion on. What would you rather, right? Would you rather Liverpool win the FA Cup and Salah gets a farewell trophy, of course, but we don't make the Champions League, or we don't win the FA Cup, we don't win the Champions League, but we make sorry, we don't win the FA Cup, we don't win the Champions League, but we don't make Champions League football through the league. What would you rather?
It's not easy, is it? I mean, as a fan, your answer should always be winning a trophy. Winning
Mm,
a trophy can't be taken away from you. The problem is we're in a day and age now, and it's sad. It's really sad. We're in a day and age now where financially Champions League is so
yeah,
important. Even as a fan, you think about that because of the future implications and on balance. Because Liverpool are fortunate enough to win things regularly, I think you probably have to just edge it with the Champions League, which is so sad to say. I don't.
it is.
It hurts me to say that. I feel like if you're not Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Man City, if you're not one of the clubs winning stuff regularly, I think that's the wrong answer for your club. Like if you're Newcastle, if you're Crystal
Yeah.
Palace, yeah, I think you should just take the trophy. But with the bigger teams that are winning things regularly, I think probably on balance you say the Champions League. What would you say on that one, Max?
I'd go Champions League as well. I just think this squad, being Premier League champions last season, they're like being in the Europa League next season is actually unthinkable. And I don't want to sound arrogant or, just turn your nose up at an FA Cup. And I'd love to see Salah win a trophy as well, go out and winning a trophy. But yeah, we need to be in the Champions League because it can set a dangerous. You can, it's a slippery slope. You could find yourself in the Europa League for a couple of seasons, like a Man United, for example, in recent history. And are you going to attract players in the summer if you're in the Europa League?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the long term
Probably not.
side of it. Yeah.
Probably not gonna happen. But do you think this just last sort of question for you? Do you think this Salah announcement can galvanise the players and the fans to do something special this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes we saw this when Klopp announced he was leaving. I think maybe he did it a bit early, did it in
Yeah.
January, if I remember
Mm.
rightly. Um, it gave a massive wave of momentum, but it probably lasted a couple of months. If he'd have done it in March, I'd be interested to see if that wave of
That's a
momentum
very
could
good
have carried
point.
Liverpool
Very good point.
through. But yeah, it's not going to have quite the same amount of impact as Klopp, of course. I think so, though, Max. If Liverpool can just follow me along on this, if Liverpool can get through against PSG, just
Mm.
imagine they do it. And let's go one better. Let's say that Salah scores the winner to get them through. Suddenly, how are we feeling about things now? You're getting very excited. Very,
Yeah.
very excited. Now, obviously, this is dreamland. I'm making this up. But if that is to happen, you can't help but get carried away and starting to wonder what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, Champions League runs are they're like momentum builders, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like you literally find yourself beating a really good team, and then you're like, "Well, we're doing this." And then the league doesn't become important. Even if we get knocked out of the FA Cup, no one will care because the focus will be on a Champions League semi-final. But again, you find yourself in a position where if we do win the Champions League, that definitely confirms slot staying for next season. So it's so tricky, isn't it? Like the current situation Liverpool are in, I can't figure out my thoughts. I've said multiple times I feel very, very drained from this season, just being a fan.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think and I'll end on this point. I think the time probably is up for Arne Slot. I can't believe I'm saying that given that they won the league last season. It just doesn't compute to me. But I think with all of the workings out of the style of play and the fact the problems that exist now, what's the date today? 25th of March. We're
Mhm.
10 months into the season. The problems that exist today on game week 31 are the same problems that Liverpool had in the first 5 game weeks, of which they won every single game, tells me that the learnings have not been learned for a full season, and I don't see there's no evidence to me that he's the man that's going to fix that going forward. Yet, if you said to me, like, well, winning the Champions League means he's going to stay, of course I want Liverpool to win the
Mhm.
Champions League. Of course I do. So it's one of those, be careful what you wish for, but at the same time, I think, how could you say no to that? It's in the record books, and if you were to get someone in that's brilliant, and that's the pinnacle anyway.
Yeah,
So
it is. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a difficult one, mate. But I think ultimately, I think the time has come for Slot, if I'm honest. And I think he probably feels the same. He's been under a lot of pressure. He'll feel unfairly so because he's won the league last year. I understand his point, but it's probably right for both. I think he doesn't look himself.
No, not at all. Interesting summer ahead at Liverpool. Hopefully, the Salah announcement can obviously galvanise the fans and the players to pull off the dream ending to a special 9 years. It's going to be super emotional as well. But yeah, I'll end it on that. Thank you for your time today, Ben. Always a pleasure to talk football with you. And I'm sure we'll catch up before the end of the season, the first of many collabs, hopefully.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. If you don't follow Ben already, please do so. All of his links will be in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.